Jin-Woo Park walked slowly through the bright halls of the Federation Council building. His gray clothes were simple and clean. Other beings from across the galaxy moved past him, some tall and blue, others with many arms, a few that looked like walking trees. They all nodded at him with friendly smiles. "Good morning, Ambassador Park," called out Delegate Zara from the Centauri system. Her voice was warm and kind. "How are the human colonies doing today?" "Very well, thank you," Jin-Woo replied with a bow. "Our doctors just finished helping with the plague on Kepler 7. All patients are recovering nicely." Zara's eyes lit up. "Wonderful news. Your people are always so helpful. The galaxy is lucky to have humans like you." Jin-Woo smiled softly and continued walking. This happened every day. For 50 years now, humans have been the galaxy's favorite helpers. They built hospitals, taught children, fixed broken machines, and solved problems between different worlds. Everyone loved humans because they were so gentle and peaceful. In the human section of the space station, Dr. So-Young Kim worked in her medical lab. Around her, alien scientists from 12 different worlds studied diseases and searched for cures. The lab was full of soft music and friendly chatter. Dr. Kim wore a white coat with patches showing she had helped save lives on dozens of planets. "Dr. Kim," said her assistant, a purple creature with 6 eyes, "the new medicine for Andromedan scale, Rod, is ready for testing." "Excellent," Dr. Kim said, checking her notes. "This should help millions of sick people feel better." She looked proud but not boastful. Humans were known for doing good work without asking for praise. They just wanted to help others and make the galaxy a better place. Across the station, Captain Dong-hyun, Lee sat in the Federation military office. He wore a blue uniform with badges, showing he worked in communications and supply delivery. Most humans in the military did jobs like this, helping soldiers from other worlds get food, medicine, and messages from home. "Captain Lee," said his commander, a large bear-like creature, "can you organize supplies for the peacekeeping mission to Vega 5? "Of course, sir," Captain Lee replied. "I'll have everything ready by tomorrow morning." The commander patted Captain Lee's shoulder with a massive paw. "You humans are so organized and reliable. I don't know what we'd do without you." Captain Lee smiled and got back to work. But for just a moment, his eyes met with Dr. Kim's through the office window. Something passed between them. A quick look that lasted less than a second. To anyone watching, it looked like nothing, but it was actually a silent message in a language that no other species in the galaxy knew existed. On the human colony world of New Sol, children played in beautiful parks filled with flowers and trees from Earth. They laughed and ran around, playing games like tag and hide and seek. Their parents watched from benches, talking about normal things like work and weather and what to cook for dinner. But mixed in with the children's innocent games were other activities. Games with strange names like Find a Hidden Exit and Quick Decision Training. To any alien visitor, these looked like fun children's games. They had no idea these games were actually teaching skills that most military academies didn't include in their training programs. The human part of the space station had shops selling Korean food, bookstores full of poetry, and art galleries showing beautiful paintings of Earth's mountains and oceans. Everything looked peaceful and cultural. Humans were known throughout the galaxy for their love of art, music, and good food. In the deeper levels of Dr. Kim's medical building, behind doors that needed special permission to open, other research continued, work that had nothing to do with healing sick people. Instead, it was about understanding exactly how different alien bodies worked, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what might stop them if they ever became dangerous. Not because humans wanted to hurt anyone, but because humans believed in being prepared for anything. Jin-Woo finally reached the main council chamber, where hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy gathered to make important decisions. The room was huge, with crystal walls that showed the stars outside. Everyone took their seats and waited respectfully for the meeting to begin. "Today we will discuss trade agreements between the Outer Rim territories," announced the council leader, a tall blue being with 4 arms. Jin-Woo listened politely and took notes. When it was time for humans to speak, he stood up and talked about new farming techniques that could help feed hungry populations on distant worlds. Everyone nodded approvingly. This was exactly what they expected from humans, always thinking about how to help others. What none of them realized was that Gene Wu's farming techniques could also be used to understand exactly how each world's food production worked, where the weak points were, and how to protect those systems if they ever came under attack. After the meeting, Gene Wu walked home through the station's corridors. Aliens from dozens of worlds waved and smiled at him. They felt safe and happy knowing that gentle, helpful humans were part of their galactic community. None of them suspected that the humans they had grown to love were actually the survivors of the most dangerous world in the known galaxy, carefully choosing to appear weak and harmless. For now, that choice protected everyone. Captain Min-Ho Young was checking the morning reports when the sky turned red. Through his office window on the human farming colony of New Tegu, he watched massive warships appear through the clouds like angry storm clouds. Emergency alert to all civilians. He spoke into his communication device, his voice calm and steady. Please move to safety areas immediately. Stay calm and follow the marked paths. The ships were big and painted deep red with black symbols. Min-Ho recognized them from Federation intelligence reports. They belonged to the Skarn Empire, the most aggressive part of the Hegemony Coalition. These were not friendly visitors. Dr. Yoon-ji Choi ran into his office, still wearing her white lab coat from the Plant Research Center. Min-Ho, we have 3,000 people living here, but our emergency shelters can only hold half that many. I understand, Min-Ho said, his fingers moving quickly over his control panel. He was sending coded messages that looked like routine colony reports to anyone listening. How long until Federation help arrives? At least 6 hours, Dr. Choi said, looking at her tablet. The nearest patrol ships are very far away. 6 hours was more than enough time for the Coalition to do whatever they wanted. The biggest enemy ship opened a communication channel. The main screen in Min-Ho's office filled with the image of a large reptile-like creature wearing military decorations. His skin was dark green with yellow markings, and his teeth looked very sharp. Weak humans of New Tegu, the creature said in a voice like grinding rocks. I am War Commander Thaktor. You will give us your colony now. If you fight back, we will kill everyone. Captain Jung stepped in front of the screen with his hands held behind his back, the same polite pose that humans always use when talking to other species. War Commander, this colony is protected by Federation law. Please leave immediately and use proper diplomatic channels if you have concerns. Thaktor made a sound like angry laughter. The Federation does not care about you. You are the weakest species in the galaxy. Everyone knows humans are useless in war. The screen changed to show huge weapon platforms moving into position above the colony. You have 1 hour to get everyone off this planet. Then we take it. The communication ended, leaving Min-Ho's office quiet except for the sound of alarms in the distance. Dr. Choi moved toward the emergency communication system. Min-Ho, I can send out a medical emergency call. That might make them wait longer. No, Captain Jung said immediately, his voice still calm. We use Protocol 7. Something changed in Dr. Choi's eyes, a look of recognition that made her stand up straighter. Are you sure? Once we start Protocol 7, we can never go back to the old way. They made the choice for us, Min-Ho said. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to all Federation monitoring stations. Tell them that New Tegu is starting Emergency Protocol 7 under Colonial Defense Law, Section 43. All around the colony, humans began moving with a purpose that would have surprised any alien observer. Families gathered their children not in panic, but with the organized efficiency of people who had practiced this many times. Emergency supplies appeared from hiding places. Communication equipment came out from under false floors and behind fake walls. At the Federation monitoring station near Proxima Centauri, Lieutenant Commander Jae Sung Kim received the coded message and immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Control, this is Monitor Station 7. New Tegu has activated Protocol 7. I repeat, Protocol 7 is now active. The answer came back in seconds, in a voice that carried the authority of someone who had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. Message received, Monitor 7. All Colonial Defense units are now active. Tell Federation Command that humanity is switching to war protocols starting now. Understood, Control. Should I tell Ambassador Park? No. Ambassador Park will learn through proper channels. You have new orders coming. As the communication ended, Lieutenant Commander Kim felt something he hadn't felt in 50 years of peaceful service. The quiet excitement of a hunter whose prey had finally made a terrible mistake. The attack on New Tegu was just the beginning. Over the next 3 days, Coalition forces attacked 6 more human colonies. Each attack was broadcast across the galaxy as proof that humans were too weak to defend themselves. The Federation's response was exactly what everyone expected: formal complaints, calls for peace talks, and worried statements about human civilians. But in the hidden levels of human buildings across Federation space, systems were waking up that had been sleeping for 50 years. Secret storage areas were opened. Communication networks that no alien had ever detected went active. People who had spent decades working as teachers, doctors, and engineers began accessing files that turned them into something the galaxy had never seen before. War Commander Thaktor stood on his command ship, watching pathetic human responses to his attacks. Their evacuation procedures were well organized, but ultimately pointless. The Coalition would take their worlds, make slaves of their people, and show the galaxy that the Federation was too weak to protect its most helpless members. What he couldn't see were the signals being sent between human installations throughout Federation space. Signals that used codes developed during humanity's darkest times on their home planet. Signals that carried a simple message. It was time to stop pretending. The Federation Emergency Council meeting was different from any that had happened before. Ambassador Jinwoo Park walked into the Great Crystal Chamber, but something had changed about the way he moved. The gentle diplomat who had served for 50 years was gone. In his place stood someone who moved like a hunting cat, quiet, controlled, and dangerous. "Honor delegates," Jinwoo said, his voice carrying a sharp edge that made several aliens shift nervously in their seats. Humanity formally requests Article 15 of the Colonial Defense Charter. Council Prime Veltar raised his 4 blue arms in confusion. Ambassador Park, Article 15 has never been used. It gives member species special permission to respond to threats that could destroy them completely. Exactly, Jinwoo said. His smile was nothing like the warm, friendly expressions the galaxy had grown used to seeing from humans. 3 days ago, the Hegemony Coalition declared war on human civilians. They have made it clear that talking will not solve this problem. In the Human Observer section, Dr. So-Young Kim no longer wore her medical research badges. Instead, her uniform had new markings that no Federation computer recognized, symbols that suggested she was an expert in areas the galaxy preferred to believe humans knew nothing about. The Federation's response has been, not enough. Jinwoo continued. Therefore, humanity will deal with this threat using our own methods. Delegate Morvac from the Centaurian Trade Union leaned forward nervously. Ambassador, surely you cannot believe that humans can succeed where our combined military forces have failed? The Coalition has conquered 17 star systems in the past year. Jinwoo turned toward the Centaurian delegate with movements that seemed almost liquid, like water flowing around obstacles. Tell me, Delegate Morvac, what do you actually know about humanity's home world? The reports are classified, but we understand it was a hostile place that you barely escaped from. Barely escaped. Jinwoo repeated the word slowly, as if he was tasting something bitter. An interesting way to put it. He gestured, and the chamber's main screen came alive with images that made several delegates gasp and look away. Earth appeared on the screen. Not the peaceful world of human stories, but the reality, a planet where every piece of land and sea was a battlefield, where creatures had evolved not just to survive, but to kill and dominate through violence, intelligence, and ruthless determination. This is our home world, Jinwoo said calmly. A planet where the average hunting animal could kill most galactic species without breaking a sweat. A world where natural disasters regularly wipe out entire populations. A place where survival required not just being smart, but being willing to do absolutely anything necessary to protect your family. The images changed to show human history, wars that had destroyed entire continents, weapons designed for the sole purpose of killing more efficiently, conflicts that had pushed the species to the edge of extinction and back again, over and over. We did not barely escape our home world. Jinwoo continued. We conquered it so completely that we became the top predator on a planet specifically designed to produce the most dangerous predators possible. On the human military ship New Seoul, Captain Dong-hyun, Lee stood in what looked like a normal Federation command center. But hidden panels had opened, showing weapon systems and tactical displays that worked on principles the Federation had never seen before. All units, this is command. Lee spoke into communication equipment that had been hidden for 50 years. Protocol 7 is now fully active. You're authorized to fight coalition forces with all necessary methods. Across human space, the change was fast and complete. Farming colonies revealed hidden military bases. Research centers activated weapon systems that worked in ways that made no sense to galactic science. Civilian transport ships dropped their peaceful disguises to become something that made coalition captains question everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. War Commander Thaktor got his first hint that something had changed when his reconnaissance team stopped reporting from a new Tegu system. The coalition had left a garrison force to control their new conquest. 3 heavy warships and a battle station that should have been more than enough to handle a few scattered human survivors. Communications. Contact the Tegu garrison. Thaktor ordered. Sir, we are only receiving automated distress signals. All personnel appear to be offline. Offline. The communications officer's scales had turned the pale yellow color of fear. Sir, the signal suggests complete base destruction. No survivors detected anywhere. Thaktor's claws came out without him meaning to. That is impossible. The humans have no military ships in that system. Our intelligence confirmed they evacuated in civilian transports. What coalition intelligence had failed to understand was a human belief that every civilian was a potential soldier, every transport ship a potential weapon, every peaceful colony a potential fortress. The garrison at New Tegu had been destroyed not by superior firepower, but by tactics that coalition military training could not understand. Guerrilla warfare perfected by a species that had spent thousands of years mastering the art of survival against impossible odds. In the Federation capital, emergency meetings began as reports flooded in from across human space. The gentle refugees who had spent 50 years helping galactic civilization were showing capabilities that made even the galaxy's strongest military powers reconsider their strategic plans. Ambassador Jinwoo concluded his speech to the Federation Council with words that would be remembered for centuries. For 50 years, humanity has chosen to be your partners in peace. That choice protected all of you from seeing what we really are. The Coalition has made that choice impossible to continue. He paused, and for a moment the chamber saw something that explained why Earth had been classified as a death world. Now you will see what happens when Death World survivors stop pretending to be civilized. War Commander Thaktor had conquered 47 worlds in his military career. He understood all the normal ways of fighting. Big space battles, bombing planets from orbit, invading with ground troops, and surrounding enemies until they gave up. What he could not understand was how his soldiers kept vanishing into thin air. "Give me a report," he demanded as his assistant approached his command chair on the flagship Dominion's edge. "Sir, we have lost all contact with Garrison 7 at the human mining facility on Kepler 438b. Their last message said they had successfully taken control, then nothing at all." Thaktor's secondary arms clenched into fists. "Explain, nothing at all, Sub-Commander." "Complete silence, sir. When our patrol went to investigate, they found the facility running normally. The human miners were working at their stations. The space platforms were functioning perfectly, but our entire garrison force of 300 Marines had disappeared." Disappeared? 300 Coalition soldiers do not just disappear. What the sub-commander could not explain, because Coalition military training had no knowledge of such things, was that the human miners had never really been miners at all. Mining engineer Kyung-Min Park had spent 30 years pulling rare metals from asteroids, but his real specialty was what humans called unconventional warfare. The Coalition garrison had been eliminated using techniques developed in Earth's mountains and jungles, adapted for zero-gravity environments by a species that saw warfare as just another problem to solve with intelligence and creativity. On Earth itself, the Coalition occupation force was learning that conquering a death world required more than having better weapons and more soldiers. General Hygiene Lee stood in what looked like a captured command bunker, reading reports that would have been impossible to believe just weeks earlier. Status report from Sector 7, she requested. Lieutenant Colonel Suk-Jin Nam looked at his tactical display. The Coalition believes they have established secure control zones around major cities. Intelligence suggests they are confident they control all strategic resources. Confident based on what they can see, General Lee observed. What they cannot see is that every human civilian they are controlling is a trained operative. Every building they have occupied was designed with hidden passages. Every piece of equipment they are using was built with secret shut-off switches. The Coalition's biggest mistake was thinking that humanity's peaceful nature meant weakness rather than choice. Earth's surface appeared to be under foreign control, but beneath that surface was a civilization that had spent centuries preparing for exactly the situation. Dr. Young Soo Kong had been Earth's leading expert in alien biology before the invasion. Now he sat in a hidden laboratory deep beneath Seoul, developing biological weapons specifically designed to affect Coalition body chemistry. The Federation's moral rules prohibited such research, but humanity was no longer following Federation rules. How long until we can deploy it? General Lee asked during her daily briefing. 72 hours for air distribution, Dr. Kong replied. The agent targets Skarn breathing systems specifically. Not lethal, but completely disabling. They will spend 3 days thinking they are dying before they recover completely. Psychological impact? Severe. Nothing destroys morale, like believing the enemy can kill you through the air you breathe. Above ground. Coalition forces reported successful occupation of human cities, unaware that their every movement was being watched by civilians who had spent decades perfecting the art of looking harmless while gathering information. Baker Un Seo Kim had been providing fresh bread to Coalition officers for 2 weeks, each delivering an opportunity to plant listening devices and study enemy capabilities. The transformation extended beyond Earth. Throughout human space, colonies that had appeared defenseless were revealing that their civilian populations had military training that exceeded that of professional soldiers from most galactic civilizations. On New Busan, agricultural specialist Myung Cho managed what appeared to be crop rotation schedules, but was actually the deployment of defensive systems that had been disguised as farming equipment. Her irrigation systems were actually weapons platforms. Her greenhouse facilities contained armories that would have impressed Coalition military engineers if they had been able to detect them. War Commander Thaktor was beginning to realize he had made a terrible error in judgment. The reports coming from occupied human territories described a population that seemed to be both conquered and in complete control at the same time. Coalition forces held all important positions, but somehow human civilians continued to move freely, communicate openly, and coordinate activities that suggested organization impossible for a defeated people. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. It appears to be a formal communication from their military command. Put on screen. General Lee's image appeared, transmitted from a location the Coalition believed was under their complete control. She wore a uniform that no Federation database had ever recorded, with rank insignia that spoke of command structures the galaxy had never suspected existed. War Commander Thaktor, she began, I am General Hygiene Lee of Earth Defense Command. You are hereby informed that your occupation of human territories is temporary and will be ended at our convenience. Thaktor's laugh was meant to show contempt, but sounded nervous instead. General, your world is under Coalition control. Surrender is your only logical option. War Commander, you control nothing. Your forces occupy positions we allowed you to take. Your supply lines exist because we permit them. Your communications work because we have not chosen to cut them. General Lee's smile was like that of a hunting predator. You are not occupying our world. You are trapped on it. The transmission ended, leaving Thaktor staring at empty space while alarms began sounding throughout his flagship. His aide delivered the report in barely controlled panic. Sir, we are detecting massive system failures across all Coalition positions. Power systems are failing, communication networks are going dark, and our ground forces are reporting unusual atmospheric conditions. On Earth's surface, Coalition soldiers began experiencing the first effects of Dr. Kang's airborne agent. The psychological impact was exactly as predicted. An enemy that could poison the air itself was an enemy that could reach them anywhere, anytime, through any defense. But the real shock was yet to come. As Coalition forces struggled with equipment failures and mysterious illnesses, human civilians began to drop the last pretenses of helplessness. Throughout Earth cities, the conquered population revealed they had never been conquered at all. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to show their occupiers what it meant to fight a species created by a death world. 6 months after the Coalition surrender, Ambassador Jinwoo Park stood once again before the Galactic Federation Council. But the Great Crystal Chamber felt different now, and the faces watching him showed expressions he had never seen before. Where once there had been casual kindness, now there was careful attention mixed with something that might have been respect or fear. Honored delegates, Jinwoo began. Humanity wishes to formally end the hegemony crisis and return to peaceful cooperation with all Federation members. The silence lasted much longer than it used to. Finally, Council Prime Veltar spoke with his 4 blue arms moving nervously. Ambassador Park, the Federation, appreciates humanity's decisive action in stopping the Coalition threat. However, many member worlds have questions about the methods you used. Jinwoo nodded calmly. Of course, we understand the galaxy's concerns about what we can do. That is exactly why we want to address them directly. On the main display, images began to appear. Not of Earth's dangerous environment this time, but the Coalition's former territories now returned to their original owners. Former slave worlds where human medical teams worked alongside local populations. Destroyed systems where human engineering crews rebuilt infrastructure with improvements that would have taken centuries to develop on their own. The Coalition surrender was achieved through what we call complete deterrence, Jinwoo explained. No Coalition worlds were destroyed. No civilian populations were harmed. War Commander Thaktor's forces were neutralized and sent back to their home systems with full medical care and payments for their service. Delegate Morvac leaned forward cautiously. Ambassador, our intelligence services are curious about human capabilities that were previously unknown. The technologies demonstrated during the conflict appear to be centuries ahead of known human development. Not centuries ahead, Jinwoo corrected gently. Simply specialized for different purposes. For 50 years, humanity has focused our technological development on healing, building, and nurturing. But we never forgot the technologies needed for protection. In the Human Observer section, Dr. So-Young Kim wore her medical badges once again. But the galaxy now understood that the same knowledge that allowed her to cure diseases also gave her detailed understanding of how to disrupt alien biological systems. Knowledge she would never use except to defend innocent lives. General Hygiene Lee had returned to Earth to oversee the change back to civilian government. The hidden military installations were being sealed again, their personnel returning to careers in farming, education, and research. But the galaxy now knew they were there, ready to emerge if needed. We wish to propose a new framework for Federation security. Jinwoo continued. Humanity will continue to serve as we always have, as builders, healers, and bridges between civilizations. But we also formally offer our services as the Federation's final defense against existential threats. The proposal was simple and elegant. Humanity would keep its role as the galaxy's most peaceful and cooperative species, but with the understanding that any threat to Federation civilians or basic values would face the full response capabilities of a death world species. War Commander Thaktor, now living in comfortable exile on a Coalition rehabilitation world, had become an unwilling expert on human warfare. His reports to Coalition intelligence painted a picture of an enemy that fought with principles no other species had ever developed. Absolute commitment to protecting civilians combined with ruthless efficiency in eliminating threats. They never tortured prisoners, he had reported. They never targeted civilian populations. They never used more force than necessary, but they were absolutely unstoppable within those limits. It was like fighting an enemy that had solved the puzzle of how to be perfectly moral and perfectly deadly at the same time. On New Sol, children played in the same parks they always had, their laughter carrying the same innocent joy. But their games now included tactical response training, and diplomatic protocol management. Preparation for a future where humanity would need to balance its dual nature as both the galaxy's most peaceful and most dangerous species. Captain Minho Young had returned to managing agricultural schedules on New Tegu, but the colony now bore discrete markings indicating it was under Human Defense Protocol, a designation that warned potential attackers that threatening this world would result in consequences the galaxy preferred not to think about. The Federation's new reality was one of unprecedented peace maintained by unprecedented capability. Trade flourished as member worlds discovered that human-protected shipping lanes were absolutely secure. Territorial disputes decreased dramatically as potential aggressors realized that the Federation now had guardians who combined the moral authority of saints with the tactical capabilities of apex predators. Dr. Young Soo Kong had returned to alien biology research, but his work now included formal consultation with Federation Defense Command on threat assessment. His biological agents were sealed in secure facilities, samples destroyed except for research that might benefit galactic medicine. But the knowledge remained, a quiet reminder to any species that might consider threatening Federation civilians. Ambassador Jin Woo concluded his address with words that would define humanity's role for centuries to come. We are the same people we have always been, committed to peace, dedicated to the well-being of all civilized species, eager to contribute to the galaxy's prosperity. The only difference is that now you know the lengths we will go to protect these values. He paused, looking at the delegates who had learned to see humanity with completely new eyes. We hope this knowledge brings comfort rather than concern. The Federation's enemies should fear us, but the Federation's friends, all of you, should sleep more soundly knowing that Deathworld survivors are watching over your children's future. The vote to accept humanity's new role as Federation protectors was unanimous. Later, as delegates left the chamber, many thought about the galaxy's new reality. They had spent 50 years believing they were providing charity to refugee survivors of a hostile world. Now they understood they had been adopted by apex predators who had chosen to love them. The galaxy was safer than it had ever been, protected by beings who combined the wisdom of philosophers with the capabilities of the most dangerous predators their death world had ever produced. It was, everyone agreed, a much better arrangement than anyone had dared to hope for.